What's up, everybody? As promised, I'll be making a lot of content this pre-patch cycle and going into War Within, and one of the things I'll be making a lot of is guides for any class that I can understand, figure out, and play. So if you're one of those people that says they wish they had a Flark for their class, first of all, thank you. It's probably the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me. And secondly, it's coming probably. If I can get to your class, that means I feel like I can play it and understand it at a level where I can communicate that information to you and help in some way. That's all I'm trying to do, as well as make YouTube videos. Starting out with Ellie, I laugh a little because it is tremendously powerful right now, but that is only pre-patch. Pre-patch has War Within talents, but level 70 scaling with all the crazy secondary stats. Obviously, that's going to go way down when the expansion drops and we get to level 80, as well as just tuning. Right? Tuning that's coming out in beta and pretty much every week. So that will change a lot as well. But that said, there's a lot of talent changes in the Ellie tree that add a lot of fluidity and intrinsic synergies to the spec that will only be accentuated with hero talents that really make the class feel good, fluid, fun to play, all those good words. It's just very foundationally sound right now. So I wanted to talk about it, even if it's going to be not quite this level of the engine in War Within. I do believe there's a lot still there to love. So going into War Within, you're going to have this understanding, this basis that you can use. And if you wanted to destroy pre-patch solo shuffles, I've been doing some of those just to get experience for this video. The only rounds I've lost are like to other Ellie shamans, but I actually figured out a few things while experimenting that I'm now going to tell you guys. And the last one was this 6-0 against another Ellie shaman where I did like 40 million more damn. I'm sorry, Boggs. I'm not trying to call you out, but I'm just saying I have the sauce that I believe I locked in. So I don't know what 2600 pre-patch MMR is in a few games, but if that's something that interests you, then feel free to go nuke people and pre-patch. I mean, we got, what, 2 more weeks of this. You can have some fun, I guess. Okay, anyway, that's too big of a disclaimer. Sorry, I talked too much. Let's get right into it with the talents. But yeah. So we start at the top, and the top is generally locked in for every class, and of course Ellie is no different, but there actually are some choice nodes up this early, but they're really not choices. Elemental Blast is not a choice with Earthshock because it's a cast time. The whole engine I'm talking about is just funneling instant casts that all fuel and generate resource for each other. So you'd want an instant cast Earthshock. You would never want to cast things, and this is only going to be even more true in War Within when the cast gets even longer because you have less haste. Similarly, Fire Elemental versus Storm Elemental right now for this engine build that I'm running is also not a choice because everything is based around fire damage and the fire procs. So Fire Elemental is just a huge part of that. That said, I got another disclaimer. There is a lot of tuning going on right now. In fact, the most recent patch notes is trying to bring down some of the fire and bring up some of the lightning. So if War Within comes out, look for another video from me as long as I still feel very confident on this spec, because there might be the lightning package they're clearly trying to buff. And this would be a catalyst for all of that. So you got to look out for these things. But right now, I'm showing you the fire version that's so broken right now. Earthquake choice node is actually just whether or not it casts on your target or casts at a selected location. And you would always do selected location because that allows you to have the option of just dropping it behind a pillar to cleave people who are trying to line you, which is really the only use for Earthquake. You don't press it that much. Maybe in RBGs in a team fight. Okay, finally, another choice node here. You have Surge of Power versus Aftershock, but that's just Surge of Power because it gives you all of these different things. AoE Flame Shock. Lava Burst reducing Fire Elemental is huge for your engine, and then Frost Shock being a huge fruit is also huge because it's just a great peel or something to stop somebody from running, which they will want to do from you. Okay, so now you go down the left and the right side here. The left is really interesting. It's some of the stuff I wanted to talk about, those changes. Ice Fury. First of all, Ice Fury is now an instant cast, and second of all, it's now a part of the Frost Shock button, so all you lower button enthusiasts where you want to have less buttons on your bar, you're really happy. Because now when you proc this with Lava Burst, which you'll be casting all the time, so perfect part of the engine, you get Ice Fury. Your Frost Shock turns into Ice Fury, which then does a ton of damage, instant cast, generate Maelstrom, and then makes your Frost Shocks do more damage and generate Maelstrom, which is all good for grabbing Earth Shocks, which then give you all the other modifiers on your other abilities. We'll be talking about all of this soon. One of which is Flux Melting, where you kind of alternate, right? You cast the Frost Shock or the Ice Fury, then you cast a Lava Burst. The Lava Burst uses Master of the Elements on the right side to buff the Frost Shock or Ice Fury right back, or it does Nature for your Earth Shock, right? So this alternating rhythm going Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Earth Shock, Lava Burst, Ice Fury, Lava Burst, they're buffing each other back and forth, kind of like a Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Decay if you're coming from that, because you're on my channel. But yeah, you just alternate to keep buffing the next spell you cast while keeping that engine going. And it just gets crazier. Elemental Equilibrium, Fire, Frost, and Nature damage. Just this is a total damage buff to everything as long as you press those 3 types of schools, which you will be doing from all of the things I just said. Fire, Lava Burst, Frost Shock, or Ice Fury, and Earth Shock. So that's free. Down this right side has a lot of the fire engine as well, with the flame shock dealing damage faster. That gives you more lava burst procs, which make it instant cast and reset its cooldown. Duration of elementals is just good for your survivability with Earth Ellie, and your length of your fire elemental, which you can reset a lot to get even more of them. More fire damage is obvious from improved flame tongue weapon. Elemental increasing critical strike damage is just more damage because Lava Burst always crits. Maximum Maelstrom is huge because your resource gen right now is so huge. I don't know if this is going to change in War Within, but right now it's so huge, and it gives you a little bit more shock damage, which is a decent chunk of damage. Not really that much. Lava Burst is pretty much all of it, but you know, as a part of the engine right now, if your resource gen goes way down in War Within because less haste, maybe you talent off this. We'll see what people decide to do. Flame Shock generating more Maelstrom. This is just the engine. Prim Wave is absolutely required. It is required for this PvP talent that we'll get to in a second, but it also just does so many things. It gives you the AoE Lava Burst from Prim Waving, so you Prim Wave one target, apply the Flame Shock to them, Lava Burst and somebody, and then everybody gets Lava Bursted who's affected by your Flame Shock. Then that gives you an enormous amount of haste as long as you have a Flame Shock on everybody when you use a Prim Wave, right? Because of Splintered Elements, this talent. And then Liquid Magma Totem helps you get those Flame Shocks out because you drop down this bad boy and it applies AoE Flame Shock to people in the radius and does a decent chunk of damage. So Flame Shock, Flame Shock, Flame Shock mod, right? All over the place. Just this is part of the fire engine that I've said now 14 times. So sorry about that. But even my build is called The Engine, by the way. And it's the only one I'm going to be showing you because it's the only one that matters. Once you see this, you'll know, unless you already have, in which case you know. So yeah, Prim Wave Haste, and then Flame Shock AoE Applicator. Then you have a little bit of just a Fire Ellie buff, which is not that important, but it's a little chunk of Fire Elemental usefulness, which is your elementals are also buffed by Primal Elementalist, which allows you to access some of their abilities and do even more damage. And then here is the huge crit chance for Flame Shock, feeding into all the Flame Shocks that you will have out, and then reducing your Fire Elemental cooldown even more, which is why you have it up. If you've been playing this spec but don't recognize why you have Fire Elemental, even though it's a 2.5 minute cooldown, you're going to have this up all the time. It's because you have 2 cooldown resets like that. But then it gets even crazier because you have Ascendance, which now increases your Lava Burst by your crit chance. So if you have any crit chance residual from gear from like your tier set, or just basic crit chance, you just get more Lava Burst damage, which you saw from my breakdown you absolutely want. But the real point of Flame Shock is to refresh your Flame Shocks. Or sorry, the real point of Ascendance is to refresh your Flame Shock, which is great because now you've got that engine still churning. But also, you're going to get an AoE Lava Burst on absolutely everybody. Which if you fire that and then a Prim Wave back to back, you just fired out 4 AoE Lava Bursts when you just Prim Wave, Ascendance, Lava Burst yourself, right, with the procs there. And they're the Lava Burst AoE. Oh my god, it's just insane. Then you also have another benefit to Ascendance, which is you get 25% haste the entire time. I don't know. That is a crazy number. I don't know if there's anything that increases your secondary stats by as much as Preeminence does. Tell me if you can find anything that's more than 25% haste during the duration of Ascendance, and it increases it by 3 seconds. So that is a 18-second heroism, which you already have heroism with the PvP talent we'll get into in a second. So, and then you have another heroism from Splintered Elements. So I guess they just gave you 3 heroisms, which is good, I suppose. And 2 of them are on a very short cooldown. So have fun with that. That may be one of the reasons, by the way, that Ellie ends up being not this crazy, but still really awesome to play, because even though your secondary stats will go down, you still have secondary stats from all of these haste mods in your tree, right? So, and then you have deeply rooted elements, which of course gives you proc ascendance, and when it procs, you fire out the lava burst AoE and refresh all the flame shocks, and then get your 25% haste back, and get your lava burst increased damage for a little while. So that's the engine. Every talent perfectly feeds into it except for exactly Flash of Lightning, which you just get to go down this way because there's no other way to do that. But Flash of Lightning is crit chance for your lightning bolt. You'd almost never press this button. In fact, you probably literally never press this button. So there you go. That is it. I'm going to show you how it works soon. I just wanted to go over some of my choices on the left side. The left side is really utility heavy, obviously, which means there's a ton of options you could do. I chose stuff that's really easy to manage, and I'm going to explain why. And then I'm going to also explain what people who are getting even more crazy with it will run and why they would do that. Obviously, the top of the tree, though, is just mandatory. You have your wall, you have your lava burst second charge, you have shear, you have earth shield is a huge amount of healing, and then double shield gives you earth shield and then earth shield on somebody else, and then big healing surges on yourself, which you can get a lot of out with Spirit Walker's Grace, which allows you to cast while moving. And then I run Spirit Walker's Aegis because while I'm getting trained, if I press Spirit Walker's Grace and Ancestral Guidance together and just start spamming healing surges on myself, it's unkickable and I can move around, so I can even kite while I'm doing it. Again, that's Spirit Walker's Grace with Spirit Walker's Aegis. And then you just healing surge yourself with the Refreshing Waters buff, and you actually do a ton of healing with that, which is great supplementary healing with your Earth Shield and Healing Stream Totem, which is just a nice pulsing AoE heal. You have a decent amount of damage reductions from Elemental Resistance, Elemental Warding, right? So this just gives you some magical walls. And then you have another source of healing here with Nature's Guardian, which just procs passively, so you don't really have to worry about it. Some more damage reduction from Earth Ellie, which you're going to grab and gives you extra health as well. And that's another thing that benefits from Everlasting Elements. Like I said, Frost Shock is part of the engine. Gust of Wind is nice mobility. Winds of Alikir and Thunderous Paws are both nice mobility as well, which works with Ghost Wolf. So when you press Ghost Wolf, you'll get a nice burst of speed and clear yourself. Another way to clear yourself of snares is Windrush Totem paired with Jet Stream. And all of these things are getting cooldown reduced by Totemic Surge, so you have access to a lot of these things very often. Things like Healing Stream Totem, which I talked about already, Windrush Totem, and even just your regular totems like Liquid Magma Totem, and Grounding Totem, which is a PvP talent. So that's what I mean by all of these things. Just all of your utility that you have access to. Certainly not stuff like Purge or Hex, but you know, they're not totems. Anyway, Greater Purge is what you're going for here because you have so many, and this is really, I feel like the correct explanation. You have so many important globals you could press at any time. There's no chance you would want to give up the ability to purge twice at once for one button press just so you could purge more often, right? Because then you would be spamming purge and wasting globals when instead you could press it once, get two things, and immediately go back to all your insane damaging and utility globals that you have. So that's why you run Greater Purge there. Hex, again, is your CC. Thunderstorm is insanely useful. Every kidney, every other kidney, you can knock people back. Every remorseless stun, you can knock them back on you. And it just gives you a little answer, self-answer for all those goes, since it's usable while stunned. It also reduces their speed, so they get knocked back and they don't immediately get back on you unless, you know, they have a charge or a grip or something, but it gives you some reprieve, and it's just one talent point for all of that value. So pretty useful. You can also knock other things like knock people off of Z-axis or knock casts, or all sorts of good stuff. I mean, it's a knock. It's hard to run out of things you could figure out to do with it. Tremor Totem is insane utility, getting your team and you out of fear. Charm and Sleep aren't as common, but they're there as well. Things like Succubus Sleep and probably Sleepwalk. Yeah, so you can just pre-tremor these things or tremor it if it's on your teammate. Earth Grab is just better than Earth Bind. It's a root, and roots are extremely valuable. There's a ton of snares in the game, but there's less roots, and having your own personal root is good. And this just increases your weapon imbue flame tongue damage. So very cool. So here's what I was going to say. There's some choices that I made. I don't think people use Spirit Walker's Aegis as much. I've checked a few people. I haven't checked every fantastic elemental shaman in the game. So there's possibly other people that are using this, but I just think pressing this, having Spirit Walker's Grace and maybe Ancestral Guidance and just bombing healing surges into yourself, like I said, is a huge recovery button and a really nice answer I've had a lot of fun with. And then Totemic Recall, probably silly, but there's some shenanigans you can do with Magma Totem and then Totemic Recall to keep Flame Shocks on everybody, especially against AoE, like melee cleaves, like in AoE situations. You can just drop down the Liquid Magma Totem. They use their Dispel. You can get another one down. You have it on all three people, and then you pop Ascendance, and then it extends it, and then the Prim Wave, and oh my god, yeah. So that's a fun shenanigan you can do, but it's not limited to that, right? You could double ground against caster cleaves. That's something I really enjoy doing, right? You can Grounding Totem, the PvP talent, which immunes all their ranged stuff, right? It just grounds all their casts, and then you reset it, and they're like, okay, that was grounding, and he pops Combust, and then you ground again, and like, oh my god, you're just taking a mage or a lock out of the game, and they're really going to hate you for it. So that's why I use Totemic Recall, but of course it's much more, and you've seen this a trillion times, so I might not even have to tell you, but it's much more common to use Totemic Projection and Stone Bulwark now, which is a new one that gives you a huge shield, massive survivability buff. But Totemic Projection is what people are doing when they use Static Cling Totem, where they grab you in a Static Cling and then totemically project the cling somewhere else, and that pulls you along with it. So that's what they're doing. They're herding people together with that. And it's still fantastic, but I've just had really good luck with this very simple to use, very high agency, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just impact immediately. I can ground combust, reset, ground Chaos Bolt, and all of a sudden for however long this lasts, I mean, what is that? 6 seconds, but it would really be 3 and then shear something and then another 3. It would be like 8 seconds of just, my God, we can't press any buttons. So if you've ever played against R Shaman, Ellie Shaman in a shuffle, then you also know how annoying double ground can be. Sometimes you just can't play the game. So that's just my thoughts on that. Like I said, there's other stuff you can reset with it too. The other thing that people use is Lasso. Of course, you've seen this a trillion times. Almost everybody runs it in the game. Feel free to just click it on. You can drop something for it. You can even drop the thing that I really like. But the reason that I haven't bothered with it right now is there's a lot of stuns, and all your globals are the most damaging globals in the game right now. So channeling for 5 seconds for this much damage. I mean, yes, the stun is extremely valuable, but like I said, you have a ton of stuns in this current iteration of pre-patch. Like, this is a pre-patch only thing. Your damage is so stupidly overtuned that this would be a huge waste of time in some cases, right? You would actually get maybe 1 million damage off there, and then you're like, okay, well, I could sacrifice that for a stun, but I'm playing with a rogue or a DK or warrior or a DH, and all these things have stuns, right? So that's why I'm currently not talented into it. It didn't stop some of these 6-0s. I'm sure you can make great use with it still, even with your overwhelming damage. But that was just my reasoning there. And again, feel free if you're obsessed with it. If you love it, if you've made a ton of great plays with it, keep it and keep making those great plays, because that's something you're doing that's awesome. Okay, that's the stuff. I did it. So PvP talents, I've already briefly looked at each one of them, but these are the default that I use in almost every game. You can drop grounding for exactly Static Cling in the case that you're doing this totemic projection thing. Or you can just run it without totemic projection if you really like this silly build that I showed you. And then you can just cling and walk out of it, because they still can't chase you. They still have to kill it. So you just don't get the move, but you still get the effect of the cling. But Shamanism is a new PvP talent that they added to Ellie. It's been around for Enhance for the longest time, and it just allows you to give you and somebody else hero on a 1-minute cooldown. For anybody who hasn't seen this because you're an Ellie main and you haven't played Enhance at all, yes, this means you can use hero in Arena now, right? Like, hero is not usable in Arena, but this makes it usable in Arena. It gives you it on a 1-minute cooldown. It's 20% haste for 10 seconds. So it's just a phenomenal, it's like PI effectively, but a way shorter cooldown. Yeah. So it's extremely valuable. Totem of Wrath, this is old Sky Fury Totem, and now it just is baked into Primwave. Primwave is a 30-second cooldown. So this is up all the time. It's 20% more crit damage when you combine that with Elemental Fury, your crits are like unnerfed, while everybody else's are nerfed by 50%. So your crits are just doing the most damage, and that's part of the reason why they feel so chunky right now to play against an Ellie Shaman. This is probably like non-negotiable because it's just baked into your burst damage so perfectly. Yes, they can kill it, so you might not get the full 15 seconds, but your damage is so overwhelming and so accessible in an instant that before they even know that it's down from a Prim Wave cast, you could probably kill half their team, right? All at the same time. That's just what happens. So those two are unbelievable juice tools. 20% haste, 20% crit damage. Wow, just crazy. And then grounding, like I said, massive utility. It's not just against mages and locks, though. You know, other Ellie Shamans, you'll definitely want to ground them. You can ground clones. You can ground all the boomkin damage. You can ground grip. You can ground DK's kick. You can ground death coils and so many other things. Probably death coils. Just pretty much anything that is a ranged cast. So yeah, you can ground Hodge. You can ground all types of CC. You can ground Poly. We're talking about mages, right? You can not just ground their damage or their combust, but their CC. Just so many different things can be taken away by grounding totem. And if somehow you're playing against like Windwalker Warrior, I guess, you could do the static cling to get them off you, right? Or you could Counter-Strike if you want to be cheeky. You can reset it and have double Counter-Strike. They kill the first one, you reset it, press it again. They kill themselves to their own damage with Counter-Strike totem. Yeah, okay, it's probably stupid, but let's go with static field. But if you want to do that, feel free. Unleash Shield gives you another knock, and Burrow gives you an immense survivability tool. The reason I'm not running them personally is because, well, they gave me an output PvP talent, so of course I have to run it. You know me, right? This is what I will be running. But there's so many fantastic utility options in here. Another knockback, another root, healing reduction, a fantastic Vanish-esque, not really, survivability option that you pop out and do some decent damage, chunk damage on. Electrocute is just output, so I don't think you'd ever run that when you have these much better options. Okay, that's PvE talents, that's PvP talents, that's everything. So I'll show you the stats real quick. It literally is real quick. It's going to take 5 seconds. You go as much haste as you possibly can, but because you're in pre-patch, you can also get as much verse and as much mastery as you possibly can. You can see if you can actually like avoid doing full haste because you had all those different haste mods in the talent tree, and you can get up to near guaranteed duplicate of your elemental overload. But it also increases Ellie and physical damage now, which it used to not do. It used to just be the overload, but now it also increases your overall damage. So they changed that. And then verse is just verse. You're going to have verse. It's on all your PvP gear. You're just going to have it. So haste is the primary stat, but you can still get a ton of mastery. The reason why I have more mastery is 1, because I played Shaman, but 2, because I'm running double zone of focus. And you can really have access to zone of focus as an Ellie Shaman because you are always doing max damage. So anytime somebody tops you, it's not like you need zone of focus to be active during your burst, because your burst is always. So if somebody tops you, or you top yourself, or you just aren't getting focused, you are just having access to the best output secondary stat gaining embellishment. Now, none of this really matters. This is a pre-patch talk, so that's why I didn't want to talk about it too much. But that's just why. If you're curious on how the heck my stats are so obscenely high, it's because I stack haste, and then I also drop verse to go into mastery as well, because I don't want to have too much verse because it's just DR'd too fully, and then I have double zone of focus. So I have the most possible secondary stats you could ever have. You don't really go crit, obviously, because Lava Burst always crits. You get a little bit of extra crit damage, or rather extra damage from crit into Lava Burst while Ascendance is propped, but you don't really need to stack it for that reason. The other stats are just way better. Okay, so that's stats, and now we're going to go over this aforementioned engine. So you get your Fire Elemental out on cooldown, just get it out. It's pretty much like a setup global. And then you can Liquid Magma Totem a group. So let's pretend this is a DK and a Warrior and, I don't know, his pets. And we're just going to Liquid Magma Totem that group and then manually apply Flame Shock over there. Then we have our cooldowns, which are Prim Wave, Hero, and then I'm going to start firing off Lava Burst and Ascendance, then another Lava Burst. That's going to AoE to everybody because of Prim Wave and then the Ascendance. And then you just Earth Shock. You do it back and forth, right? Earth Shock, Lava Burst, Ice Fury, Lava Burst, Earth Shock, Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, back and forth and back and forth, keeping flame shocks up on everybody when you can. So watch the meters, and it looks a little something like this. So precast thing, monster damage, monster. Oh God. All right. Well, I guess I should have it here. I'll do this while doing my alternating rotation. So we're at 1.3 million. That will just not go anywhere. There's another Ice Fury proc. You can see I press it. I'm just doing 1Q, 4Q, right? 1, 4, 1, Q, 1, Q, 1. Yeah, okay. So yeah, you just, do you get it? I'm sure you do, right? That's just this os. It's insane. I could have even done more if I just manually flame shocked every cleave dummy, but that's not super realistic because you're not playing 6v6 arenas, you're playing 3v3. But you can just see lava burst, earth shock, lava burst, lava burst, lava burst, earth shock. Eventually you'll get one of those Ice Fury procs. There it is. You can see it. Ice Fury on 4. Then I alternate again. Lava burst, frost shock, earth shock, lava burst. There you go. I will leave you with that. And thank you guys so much for watching. And if that helped at all, awesome. If you have any questions or things that you figured out that you want to tell me about, please post it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video. Peace.